Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. They're the best bathrooms and the best boilers in the Northwest and beyond. Get in touch with Lee and the team at Globe Gas and Heating. Don't forget to quote Across the Park podcast for your free quote. Up the toffees.
Hello, welcome to Across the Park podcast, episode 8 of the season. I'm laughing because I'm surprising Judgy each week with these Scouse House forgotten anthems for the advert for Globe Gas and Heating. I can see him dancing in the background each time it comes on.
I'm just worried about YouTube collaring us again, and we're not ever going to get any revenue again. But I think it's worth it, to be honest.
It's worth it. Stay tuned for what song's going to be on next week's advert. But thank you for checking us out. Emails get it Judge at Across the Park podcast for the next 30 minutes-ish, bringing you all things Everton Football Club. Judgy, bit of a roller coaster from last week. A high against United. We flew into the Hill Dickinson Stadium with morale through the roof. Got smashed, and we're worried again. And then we win again last night in a really good performance. Where are you as an Evertonian since the last time we spoke on Across the Park?
I don't know. We always say, don't we, as Everton, sucked in.
Yeah.
And we lose the plot, and then we get sucked in again. But yeah, it's been one of them weeks. I mean, just stepping back from it a little bit, back from the performances and the score lines. If you told me that we were going to get 6 points out of those 3 games, I would have been delighted going into that run. So I think that's the first thing to say. Bitterly disappointed about the performance against Newcastle. I know we're going to probably touch on that first and foremost, after this little bit. But I was so disappointed by the performance, the approach, the errors. Another Jordan Pickford calamity against Newcastle, which I'm just getting sick of, to be honest. But yeah, very disappointing. But then the two, performances and results either side of it were outstanding and showing what the team are about. And I think the more I think about this group of players, I have said a few times, they have got personality. They've shown that ability to bounce back from poor defeats and from poor performances. But also, I think as a group, they're also tactically set up and well equipped to deal with those types of teams, like Bournemouth and United, who tried to dominate possession, tried to throw extra, men forward and stuff. And I thought we relished having them extra players in midfield. You come up against the Newcastle side, who are dominant in that central area, and we really struggled to get a grip on the game. But I know we'll come on to that. But yeah, I think it's, as you said, a roller coaster. But on the whole, to take 6 points from Man United away, Bournemouth away, and Newcastle at home is a good outcome.
Yeah, so we're on a bit of a high again at the minute. But what I'm going to do, Judgy, is I'm going to change all of that for you. I'm going to ask for you to revisit Saturday a little bit. Now, we put a tweet out over at Across the Park PC on our X page, and we sort of said our opinion on it is that Newcastle are much further down the line in their journey to where they want to go than us. And in hindsight, despite it feeling tough, these things can happen. With that said, Judgy, how do we approach games like that in the future? Because we didn't change our formation. We went in there as if we could match them, but we physically couldn't. And the manager said after the game, he almost said he knew we couldn't match them. So would you like to see in the future David Moyes changing tack and changing shape, changing personnel a little bit more?
Well, if that's the reality, then yeah. If he doesn't believe and the players, I mean, he got some criticism for his post-match comments, and I agree with the criticism. I think the way that he worded it suggested that we almost haven't got a right to go and compete with Newcastle, or we're not capable of doing that. I don't think that's the case. But I do agree with our sentiments and the tweet that we put out, in that Newcastle are 3-4 years further down the road than we are in terms of sensible investments, in terms of consistency, in terms of players that can win matches. They've probably got 6 or 7 in their ranks. We've got 3 or 4. So I don't think, from a squad depth point of view, from an experience point of view, from a capability point of view, we are in the same bracket as them, whether our fans like that or not. That said, I think it's the manager's responsibility to try and put a team out that's got the best chance of upsetting the opposition if he doesn't think he can match them. So, it's fair to say in that sense he's come into the game, and maybe the players have, with a degree of naivety. Newcastle have had a poor away record this season, but I think they've had a poor away record because teams have approached the game to try and disrupt them and to try and take them out of the rhythm and to try and exploit areas. We've tried to just go toe to toe with them, and we've been blown away. To be fair, so to answer your question, I'd like to see the manager approach the game as he has with Bournemouth, and with a degree of respect, but to give our players the best chance of performing on the day. And if that wasn't the case, and if that was his mistake, I think they should have been the comments. My mistake, I've come into this game, I've been a little bit too ambitious. I've not really maybe tried to take advantage of the areas where we could exploit, and I've tried to go toe to toe against the team that are a little bit further on down the line than us. I think the way his comments and where I'm coming at with this riled a few fans to suggest that we're miles off it and we've got no right to be beating Newcastle at home, which is not the case. We've done that with worse teams, but we've done it by being clever about it and being cute about it. Sean Dyche has done that. And other managers have done it with worse groups than this. So, to answer your question, I definitely want to see the manager change his tact in future to make sure that we've got a better chance of winning those matches and not being utterly embarrassed.
Well, he was almost forced to change tack last night. He's going to be forced again on Saturday because of the suspension to Everton. So we did change up last night. We were a little bit patched up. The Michael Keane injury didn't help matters, and that meant about two players had to move positions. And saying that though, Judge, I thought we played really well. We conceded a couple of chances, but you're talking about a Bournemouth team full of confidence for the past 18 months. Who've gone toe to toe with everybody and beaten a lot of teams on their own patch. I think it was a great performance. What was the most pleasing aspects for you watching the game last night?
The most pleasing aspects, probably in this order, were Jake O'Brien playing centre back and looking like an accomplished centre back, giving us that added bit of athleticism that we haven't had in that position since Jared Branthwaite's been out. Very pleased with that. I think the way that Garner adapted, because I think he struggled at the start. He got caught out a few times, but whether it was Irabunum helping him out a little bit more, because I thought he got stronger as the game went on, or whether it was him just tucking in a bit more, I don't know, but he got better as the game went on. Tim Irabunum, I've just mentioned then, I thought he had a bit of a ropey start. I think a commenter's in our group, he's crap. But to be fair, he after the booking, I don't know if it was after the booking, just kind of settled him a little bit, but he got better in possession as the game went on, and I thought he was a real. I thought he dominated physically in that midfield against a pretty strong Bournemouth midfield. So I thought that was a big positive. I'm going through players here, but I'm doing this on purpose. I think Carlos Alcaraz, again similar to Irabunum, had a difficult start but grew into the game. And I think your comment was he looks rusty, and so he should look rusty. He hasn't had enough minutes. I think Tim Irabunum's probably had double the amount of minutes that Carlos Alcaraz has had, and he looks rusty on Saturday. So I think that 70, 80 minutes that Alcaraz got in the end was great, and he was very composed on the ball to get Grealish into that position to score. He had a chance to release the pass early, took another touch, which took a player out of the game, and then found Grealish. So anyone who's watching that goal back, it was a very pivotal touch he made, which opens up a bit of space for us to exploit. But I thought there were a lot of pleasing things about the performance. Obviously, the clean sheet was ultimately the thing that won us the game. It would have been nice, to see Barry get on the clean sheet. He was a bit get on the score sheet.
So close, wasn't he?
So close with that header. And then he lashes at one in the second half, which again, a player, striker in a bit of form, probably takes a touch towards the near post and then hits it. But I think that's where he is at the moment. But I thought his physicality gives a lot. I thought they found him a real handful up there. The amount of balls that went up that he won in the air, or he got his body in. I thought his approach play and his link-up play was much better in the air in terms of like nodding the balls down to players, and he made the ball stick a lot. And you seen the difference noticeably when he went off and Beto come on. It was just like the trampoline's back. It was just bouncing off him all over the place, and he wasn't even getting close to winning headers. So they were probably the most pleasing performances for me as individuals. I think as a group, we just dealt with Fulham with Bournemouth really well, particularly in the final thirds when you've got Semenyo, who's been lauded this year as one of the best forwards in the Premier League. Don't think he got a sniff. I thought between Mikalenko and Jake O'Brien on that side, I think they snuffed it out very well. So yeah, I thought it was a very pleasing performance in all. I think Jack Grealish and the manager will be buzzing that he's got on the score sheet. Keep saying clean sheet. That he's got on the score sheet because he's made a few comments I think recently, Moise, that he wants more output from him. And that he's got that, although a little bit fortunate as well. I thought, and I've mentioned a lot of individuals, I still thought Kieran Dewsbury-Hall was head and shoulders above the whole team. He's gone on to different levels in these 3 games because I still thought he was good against Newcastle. He obviously was a little bit isolated at times, but that goal was world class that he scores at the end. And I don't know if you remember our little interview we used on the quick fire questions at the start of the season, but I picked Dewsbury-Hall as being our player of the year, and so far I think in the last 3 games he's probably stepped up. And I thought he was outstanding again.
He's almost. I'm almost taking him for granted now. He's that good. Like I don't expect anything less from just a good performance. Even when we got smashed by Newcastle, he was the standout. We've had difficult moments in the season. He's still been the standout. He still seems to be the one who believes that Everton can get back into a game and he can help them. You can be 4-0 down and he's up there trying to get Everton back into the game. I think he had to play a bit of a deeper role last night. I think it suited him. I really think. I think playing in that position, as good as he's been as the attack and advanced midfielder, I think playing in that position almost suits him because there's more of the game in front of him. I'm almost lost for words about how good he is, and I think he's been. And this is no criticism of Jack Grealish before I get slags off for this. I am not criticising Jack Grealish, but for me, he's been a better signing than Jack Grealish.
Without doubt, no doubt about it. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And again, I'm not being. I did say that at the start of the season. I thought Jack Grealish was going to be a bigger signing in terms of the statements and what he brings to the club in terms of leadership and being there and done it and stuff like that. But I did believe, and I think it's been vindicated that Kieran Dewsbury-Hall has been a better signing. I don't think there's any 2 ways about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that either. He's still a player he's a player who looks to me like he feels like he's got the bit between his teeth. He's got something to prove because he had that promising introduction to the Premier League with Leicester. Obviously went down, but then I think he got Championship Player of the Year. Got his big move to Chelsea. Didn't really get the minutes, but still, put in performances in the Europa Conference League. And he looks to me like a player who's trying to prove himself. And he's seen Thomas Tuchel come up to him after the Man United game, and he'll have probably watched them a little bit more eagerly in the next 2 games. And he scored that brilliant goal against Newcastle. And again, as you say, last night he's played in a different position. He's almost played in a different position in all 3 games. He started off higher up the pitch against Newcastle, had to drop in and was excellent. Sorry, against Man United, had to drop in when Gay gets sent off, and also had to play more of a combative role because we were down to 10 men. And he scored that brilliant goal. He's played against Newcastle in multiple positions because of the changes that were made. And then last night he's played deeper. But I think if you're looking for a player in that squad who you can bring in and put in different positions, and he'll retain the ball well, he'll work really hard, I think he's got to be in his thinking now because he brings goals. He's a match winner and he's got so much confidence. He's playing with so much confidence.
Look, the next England camp isn't going to be until I think it's March. We're all the way through now till March. If he keeps playing the way he's playing, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, I can see the manager Thomas Tuchel having him in that camp in March and having a closer look at him. I think he's playing that well. As for Jack Grealish, I don't know. I was watching Sky Sports News this morning, and one of the pundits made a good point. You think Grealish could be a bit of a wild card as a bottom of the squad in the World Cup should you get to a quarter final and need someone to come and retain the ball and things. But I think Dewsbury-Hall is someone that the England manager is all of a sudden going to be going, who's that playing for Everton? Good Lord, I'll have to go and watch Everton again. He is playing that well. The $1 million question, and you're not going to be able to answer it, but you can certainly give me your opinion, is we are now on 8 wins away from home since January, level with Arsenal. No team are close. It's us and Arsenal, 8 wins away from home for a side that were almost dead last season when Moyes took over them.
Mm.
What is the difference in why are we having so much joy on the road? And we're not getting tonked every week at the Hill Dickinson. I mean, we're at Goodison, but we're picking more points up away. What do you see in that? Why is that happening?
It is a tough one to put your finger on exactly, and I'm sure the analysts at Everton have got an idea. I think, when you go and play against any team in the Premier League, and at the moment we've got to accept that we're in the bracket of a bottom half team, because we, the last 4 seasons have told you that, and we've only briefly crept into the top half in the last few weeks. So you're going to most grounds in the Premier League, and they're putting Everton down as a fixture they should win, and therefore they're maybe playing sometimes a little bit outside of the comfort zone, or they're putting more bodies forward. And I think Everton and David Moyes as a manager, whether he likes it or not, or whether he likes to admit it, and I don't think he's enjoyed this tag of being a defensive-minded coach, but he is, and that's what his teams down the years have been good at. His first spell as Everton manager, he developed a team that could play and were capable of playing and capable of beating teams over, but that took a long time. Initially, the foundations were about being tough to beat, being strong from set plays defensively and attacking, but more so nicking 1-0s, and we've seen so many of them in his first period. He's done exactly the same at West Ham, and you look at the team and the makeup of the teams and where the strengths are, and they are through the spine of the team, and we've got a couple of wide players in Ndiaye and Grealish who still play very narrow, who don't enjoy as much space at the Hill Dickinson Stadium as they're getting away from home. Sure. Our best 3 players, we've said before, we've just mentioned Dewsbury Hall, but those 3, Ndiaye, Dewsbury Hall and Grealish, are top players, and top players are dangerous when they've got space. They're not getting space at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. I think the exception, Palace probably give us a little bit more room because they play a 5-3-2 and they got wing back, so there was space in between the lines for them, and we kind of got that as the game went on. Brighton are a very expansive team. They don't come to teams, and Hertzler as a coach isn't a manager who gets his teams to sit in. So those 2 games we've probably seen a little bit more opportunities for our players to flourish. But Fulham, we see it under Marco Silva. He's not a defensive coach, never will be. So those 3 games we've seen a little bit more. But I think Newcastle, stubborn, organised, very athletic. They come to the Hill Dickinson Stadium knowing if they could keep those 3 players relatively quiet, they've got more athleticism than us. If they can get us high up the pitch, they can hit us in the break, and they've done that. And that's, I think, the one bit of Moyes' press conference that I did agree with, is they were very good at setting traps and being so aggressive on the break. So to answer your question, I think this is a team at the moment that is a lot more capable and effective when we're sitting back, and and when we can try and set traps ourselves, and when particularly those 3 players can get space in the final third. They just don't get enough space and enough gaps at the Hill Dickinson. I think the last thing, and this is really important, if we had a goal scorer, a number 9 who could score goals and was lethal in the box, I think that's when you've got a team pinned back and you are getting entries into their area, but it's a little bit tight. They're the people who can make the difference. Give them half a yard, get a shot in, and score, and that starts to make teams think twice. Then if you've got a number 9 who's a deadly threat in the area, and you don't want to allow teams to get entries into the final third, they might change the tack then and go, well, actually, we can't sit this deep because we can't allow X centre forward that space, that opportunity to get in the area. So that would make such a difference. I'm not telling Evertonians anything they don't know. We desperately need a number 9, but I think tactically for this team to be able to win more matches at home, that is going to be the thing that we need to crack. And if we don't do it as a number 9, we've got to try and get players arriving late into the area and making runs from deep, which feeds into the narrative to play Keenan Dewsbury Hall deeper. That's why I was so pleased to see Carlos Alcaraz in the team, because I think he does give you something a little bit unexpected. I think he does things, he can be frustrating because he gives the ball away and he's always trying to penetrate, I think, which Moyes finds frustrating. But I think you've got a player like that who gambles, who arrives in the area quite a bit. I think he could give us something at home that we haven't seen enough of. And I think he's showing that when he come on against Palace, was it? where he come on at half time and
He was
just shook
unbelievable.
things up a little bit and mixed it up. So again, went around the world a little bit, but I think in short, our three best players are enjoying playing away from home because they're getting more space. We've got a back four that are very comfortable defending deep. If you look at our first choice back four, given the Brandtwaite's injured, Mikalenko left-sided centre back, Jake O'Brien right-sided centre back, and then Keane and Tarkowski centre. We effectively got four centre backs. Then two full-backs playing at home, trying to get forward. It just doesn't suit them, does it? And it exposes them. Away from home, they're more than happy, and we're more than happy seeing them tucked in. So I think all around the pitch, we've got players who enjoy playing away from home more than at home, and that's not because of the atmosphere yet. I don't think it's fair to say,
No.
I think it's more about the approach that the other teams are employing against us at their ground versus at ours.
Well, it's interesting to listen to you there. I don't think I disagree. I think teams will be looking at Everton coming to town and adopting a different approach than going to try and mark Jack Grealish and Dewsbury Hall at the Hill Dickinson. Before we go into Forest, there was a little bit of good news in a bad situation that the players being released to their countries for the African Cup of Nations, it will now be after the fixtures from the 13th of December. It was going to be before us. So we now have Iliman Ndiaye and Idrissa Gana Gueye for Chelsea away, which is a week Saturday. Mm-hmm. Senegal have won this competition before. They are going in as one of the favourites. The odds are they'll go deep into the competition. Does that worry you that we're going to be without Idrissa Gana Gueye and Iliman Ndiaye for a number of games?
Absolutely, yeah. Idrissa Gana Gueye was our player of the year last year, and it's probably fair to say that Iliman Ndiaye has been our best player over the last calendar year, if you like. So certainly our best attacking player, because Dewsbury Hall's only just recently signed. So yeah, absolutely, we lose a lot because he gives us that dynamic pace, that raw speed, physical directness that we don't really get from a lot of other players. I think had fortunes favoured us and our performances and maybe some games being a little bit more out of sight, we may have seen a little bit more of dribbling to try and prepare for that, but we haven't. That's the worrying thing. We're going to be going into that period where we need to either use dribbling or we need to use McNeil. By the way, I thought McNeil done well when he came on last night in that central.
It will be McNeil. The way it's going, it'll be McNeil.
In that central position, I thought he's done all right. But listen, we'll be seriously unbalanced, I think, when he's away. It's easier to say we're going to miss Idrissa Gana Gueye less, but if you look at the Newcastle game, I think that's almost a difficult one to argue. I think both of them equally we're gonna miss for different reasons.
I'm just looking at you, sorry. So the final, let's say they get to the final, 18th of January. That means that the pair of them will miss the following games: Arsenal at home, Burnley away, Forest away, Brentford at home, Wolves at home, Aston Villa away. 7 games.
Yeah.
It's a loss. You probably get them back for Leeds at home. This is worst case scenario on a Wednesday night at the Hill Dickinson. So, and that's the end of January. It's a lot of fixtures to be without your two of your most influential players.
Yeah, we've obviously been chatting about it in the group, and it's difficult to justify why we wouldn't bring Harrison Armstrong back on the 1st of January. Given that, I think what is that 3 of those fixtures that he'd be available for. Then you look at how well he's played for Preston so far this season, and whether we like it or not, how much further ahead he is probably than 2 or 3 of our backup midfielders.
So if we got Harrison Armstrong back hypothetically on the 1st of January, he'd be available for 1, 2, 3 of those fixtures: Brentford at home, Wolves at home, and Villa away.
Yeah, I think unless David Moyes has got the Everton scouts have got someone in mind to bring in on the 1st of January, because I think, even forget about the AFCON for a moment, we are in a position with that midfield 5 where if one of them is injured, we look significantly weaker, whether it be weaker from a personnel point of view or just tactically a little bit imbalanced. So we definitely need some more bodies in there, and I can't imagine that it's a strategic plan to go into the window in January and spend a load of money. So I think it would make complete sense at this moment in time, providing he's fit, to bring Harrison Armstrong back. But yeah, to go back to your question, it's certainly going to be a massive challenge for the team, but equally an opportunity maybe for the likes of Tyler Ziblin to get a few more minutes and hopefully to prove that he can be a player in the second half of the season that can, contribute a bit more.
I do want to end the show, Judge, on giving Everton in the community a bit of a plug. They've got a campaign going. But before we do that, before we just touch upon the Nottingham Forest fixture, our mate Michael Branch is doing some awareness for men's mental health. And you've
James's Place.
Yeah. So James's Place are, well, they're there for especially men at this time of the year who statistically bad things can happen. And that's not, I think, different sexes and things, but statistically, men at this time of the year do struggle.
I'm more vulnerable.
So Michael's raising some awareness, and what exactly is it he's doing?
So it's like an advent. He's doing 24 runs in 24 days, starting on the 1st of December, but he's increasing his runs by a kilometre every day, which is some feat, by the way. I think it's 300 kilometres he'll end up doing by the end of it, which is a hell of an effort. The equivalent to doing 10k every day over the course of the month, which is unbelievable. But he's also ending his runs with a little bit of like a conversation piece, something that you can maybe say to someone close to you or a friend or whatever, a bit of a starter for 10, a little bit of a conversation starter to try and get people to open up a little bit more, which is what part of James's Place's mission is, to try and get men to talk a bit more, because again, statistically or traditionally, we just don't open up as much as we should. So massive credit to Michael. He's obviously had his own issues and he recognises, and that's part of his kind of mission now as a person, which full credit to him, is to try and get more men to open up and try and get men to think about their own health, both mentally and physically. And he does that very, very well with his running club. So he's combining those two things, getting out, having a run, and then having a chat at the end of it. I've said to him, put it out there, I'm going to join him on a few runs. So I've committed to that myself. I might try and get some on a few of the early ones, otherwise I won't have anything left to speak at the end. But no,
well, he said over on his Instagram page, because he does Social Striders, which is a community group that go on a walk and a run on a Sunday morning. And he said for this project he's doing, shall we say, that he's inviting people to join him on there. And he actually said, I'd encourage you to do the first few, because it's going to get to 20, 21, 22, 23, 24k. But he's over at Michael Branch _1. Michael Branch _1 on Instagram. Check out what he's doing. We're behind you, Michael. Top lad. Great work that you're doing. Judgy, please tell me on Saturday we are not about to get diced.
It seems, I really hope not. I'm actually not at the game on Saturday. I've got like a Christmas thing going on, but I hope not. It would just be, it would tip off this mad phase period we've had. But I'm quietly confident about the weekend, to be honest. I think Forest have been struggling a little bit with the demands of European football. I think it looks like the honeymoon period, so to speak, has come to an end for Sean, and I'm hoping in his spell at Forest. But going back to it, I think I don't know. I think he's going to be a bit conflicted coming to the Hill Dickinson on Saturday in terms of how to approach the game, whether to prove that he's the manager that could have brought Everton into the stadium and maybe go and showcase his ability to produce an attacking performance, which I don't think is in his armory, rather than sit back. I think him coming to the stadium on Saturday, he's going to want his players to come out and play in a vein that suggests he should have been the man in the stadium. I'm hoping that's the case, to be fair, because going back to my previous points, if they go and sit in and be really hard to beat, it could be a frustrating game for us. And they've got a few players in them attacking areas that, like R3, enjoy playing on the break and enjoy playing with more spaces that maybe a team that are going at them might allow them. So I'm hoping that Moyes is a bit more pragmatic, and I'm hoping the fans are patient with that, because I think it is a very tricky fixture for that reason. You've always got to expect the Forest are going to sit in and be difficult. Therefore, let's work our way into the game and not try and go a little bit too gung-ho like we did against Newcastle. Most important thing on Saturday is those 3 points.
It'd be interesting to see how Forest sets up. Do they do what Sean Dyche traditionally does away from home, which is surrender the ball? and they look for moments, and they look where they can pickpocket you, where they can nick a set piece, or does his ego come into this where he wants to go to Everton and he wants to maybe peacock a little bit and ask Morgan Gibbs-White to do a bit more and try and win the game that way? It's going to be interesting. I know we're not going to be given a chance to, because it doesn't work like that. The away manager is never greeted onto the pitch, but I would like to think he'll get a lot of respect when he comes back to Everton, because it didn't end well. I know it didn't end well, and the performances were at the point where we had to do what we did, and I think there's a personality clash between a lot of Evertonians and Sean, but I would like to see Judge him get some sort of nice welcome, whether it just be the fans around the dugout or whatever.
I would, and I hope Rossi does his bit on that as well. I think he deserves a welcome back. He managed, and he managed this club during possibly, I think we said at the time, the most difficult period that the club that we can remember as fans. And he kept this team in the league, by hook or crook, and some of the teams and the formations and the stuff he was having to do, and the stuff he was having to deal with off the pitch was unprecedented. It would be unprecedented for most managers who've operated this level. So he deserves, and for me, he'll always get credit for that. I agree with you. It was the right time. I agree it got a little bit toxic towards the end through the things he was saying and the way he was acting and stuff like that. And it was the right time to make that change. And I think he did. He come out and said it was the right time to make a change as well. I think that was classy to a certain extent. We haven't seen that from other managers in the past. So I'm with you, mate. I'm hoping that the fans do give him, a generous round of applause or whatever that looks like at the start, and that he does get that recognition of what he done while he was here.
If Michael Keane's fit, he comes back in. James Garner goes back into midfield. Jake O'Brien goes right back, and you play Charlie Alcaraz and Keane and Dewsbury Hall. If Michael Keane's not fit, then James Garner is needed at right back. Or do you bring Nathan Patterson in?
No.
Or do you bring Dwight McNeil in?
No.
And because it's one of two. So if there's no Keane, Garner's got to play right back or midfield. That then means we need a midfielder or a right back to come in. It's got to be Patterson or McNeil. It won't be Dibbling. He's not going to play Dibbling. So in that situation, if it was you, would it be Patterson right back and Garner in midfield, or Garner right back and McNeil as the left wing and David as the 10?
I would go Garner right back in order of risk, really. I think putting, I mean, I don't know, it's tough actually when you think about it, because it would be harsh on O'Brien. O'Brien, whether we like it or not, sees himself as a centre-back. That's his preferred position. That's where he wants to play. And I think it was for me, it was the best performance. He got man of the match, and I think it was deservedly man of the match. I think taking him out to centre-back would be harsh. And I think Dwight McNeil's come on and done a job. I think Carlos Alcaraz has had a decent game. I would prefer to see Garner right back and Charlie Alcaraz play in midfield with McNeil in front of him. In the centre, though, obviously I don't want to see McNeil on the left or the right or whatever. I think playing in front of those two midfielders, I think, is the best solution in my opinion. But I also equally could understand. I mean, it depends what they're up against as well. I think Moyes got to look at what their midfield might look like and how, what those battles are going to look like as well. Who plays left wing for them against Garner is a factor. But yeah, that would be my preference, is to keep that back line as it was. And I think Moyes is that way inclined. He doesn't like to mess with the back four. So I think if he can keep that back four and that's kept a clean sheet together, he'll do that.
Prediction?
Really tough game. Tough game to call. 2-1.
2-1. Okay. I'm going to go. I think 2-1's not a bad shout, actually. Just to be different to you, I'm going to go 2-0. And not that I ever get these right, but I think Tierney Barry scores. It's got
to happen at some point, hasn't it?
Well, I keep saying it, but yeah. Before we go, I just want to give a quick plug out to some communication that Everton in the community have sent to numerous podcasts, asked us to help out, so we're happy to do so. There is a campaign being launched today, which is Wednesday. called Christmas Fundraising Campaign. Exactly what it says on the tin. A lot of people sometimes don't ask for help, but they're on the Everton, the community's radar. Some people are struggling to pay priority bills at this time of the year with the cold snap that we've had. That's not a nice place to be in. So general help with people in the community, and they're asking for anybody to make a donation, whether it be £1 or anything more. If you can, if the website is evertonfc.com/EITC for Everton in the community -Christmas. evertonfc.com/EITC-Christmas for donation to help Everton in the community this year do their fundraising campaign. Good, Everton women on their way at Chelsea this Sunday. We wish them well, as always. It's a tough game, but we wish them well. I'll be watching that one. I'll try and get back with the instant match reaction on Saturday. The Judgy's not available. I'll see if I can grab someone because I don't want to do it alone again. That was painfully bad.
Kev will do it.
Painfully bad. Kev will do it. Happy
Kev will
days.
do it.
We'll do that. Me and Judgy back here next week. We hope you're enjoying the remote setup that we've got. We hope you're enjoying having us back. We're certainly enjoying being back. It's great to be back, actually. Until then, the most wonderful time of the year is here. Christmas builds up. It is certainly the most wonderful time of the year. Don't get stressed. Enjoy it with your little ones. See you next week. Up the toffees.